feel like I've been gone for a while. This has been by far the longest the pod hasn't posted either on social or even like a podcast itself in a long time. What has been going on? A lot of people, I mean, not really a lot of people, handful of people, I should say. I think that's a better thing to say than a lot. Is a handful of people have been asking, where's the pod been? And, before I took like a break, I think I honestly took it for granted. I think I assumed people weren't listening, to be honest with you, and not in like a poor me way. I just think there was a lot of stuff going on when I decided to take a break from the pod. And I think I had stuff, obviously personal stuff, but it was nothing more traumatic than what a normal person is probably going through, or even person from the res, because that's usually what I highlight. But I just want to start and preface by saying everything's okay here. Everybody in my family's thankfully okay. They have their own issues and what they're going through, but nothing catastrophic. But yeah, man, 2025 is it's been off to a start. Let's just say we're 25 days in and I'm already kind of tallying up what days we got left till 2026. And I don't know what that means. When I took a break, it was October 25th. And that was the last time we talked. And I think I recorded a couple episodes prior to that, after that. And they just kind of felt like they didn't have substance. Like it just, it didn't really feel right. But a lot's been going down since October, man. I went to Juneau, Alaska, and I had a great time. I took a class from, shout out to Robert Mills. I know if he ever does listen to this, because I know he's a very, very, I wouldn't ever post any of the photos that I was there and took of the art, but it was a very monumental part of the year for 2024. So I got to say that was probably one of my favorite things. And also, piecing dignity down in Nevada with all the people that we met down there. That was really fun as well. But Juneau, Alaska was special. To wrap it up neatly, we did a cedar panel carving class there, taught by Robert Mills, and that was a really fun time. And I really cherished that connection, going down there and meeting him. Yeah, because, I'll just kind of give you guys a rundown. What kind of happened as I showed up. It was a 10-day class, and it was really cool because I got to take one of his classes prior to that, like months ago. And I remember even saying to him, like, hey, man, I'm going to come up there one of these days and take a class, because I remember, like, I didn't go to the last two Formline classes because I don't remember what happened. Like, something came up. And I think, I shouldn't speak for Robert, but he was kind of like, all right, yeah, he's probably heard that before, but it was cool to shake his hand and meet him. And if you guys haven't checked out his stuff, go check out Robert Mills' stuff on Insta. I follow him there. But it was a great time. I got to learn a lot about myself, and I really appreciated that time. But yeah, that was like in the very beginning of when I, took that break. And I think part of me wanted to talk about every little detail of that trip with you guys. And I had an episode basically detailing everything I did. And it just didn't really feel like it needed to be told. And I feel like that's where I hit this wall of the pod, to be honest with you. I was kind of more so like, is this what I want to keep doing? And I mean, there was always that back pocket that was in the back pocket of like, is this what I want to keep doing forever? And I think, I answered that pretty quickly. I think documenting of what I'm doing is very entertaining for myself and it helps me creatively. But I think I was in a weird place of like, I don't know if people need to know all this. And I think that's what came with the art part of it. 'Cause now I've been kind of like jumbling and kind of practicing art a little bit more. Not so much that I've never done before. I've done this pod, created and drawn like animations and gone doing learning stuff, and I don't think that's what I'm talking about. I just think I've been kind of diving into learning more of the ways of how Coast Salish and then also northern Northwest Coast art is done. And I just feel like sometimes that doesn't need to be broadcasted the way the podcast does. And I think I hit this weird moment of it where the podcast feels like I'm telling you guys everything, and the art feels like I want to share it, but then I don't know if I want to share it. So that's where I was kind of like at this weird pause. So I've worked on some cool art pieces, recently, and I think that's a little bit more fun to me right now. And I feel like I guess I might be boring you guys a little bit with this, but I just feel like when I post to TikTok or post to Instagram or post to whatever you listen to, obviously all the political stuff, we can get into all that and how that was annoying as well. And TikTok was leaving. I didn't know if it was going to leave or not. And I was at the point of like, hey, if it gets deleted, it gets deleted. The people who have my number and I'm cool with, we're going to stay pumping, and stay doing good things. But it was kind of a little saddening for the people I don't know that listen, because I appreciate those people as well. But anyway, where I was is I would see things on social media constantly during all this weird time of the presidential election. Winter's coming, just kind of getting into the groove of my new job, coming back from Alaska. I was on social media and I would just see people sharing things just like usual, but I just would watch this stuff and it wouldn't move me at all. It wouldn't give me any substance. And what I mean by that is I wasn't learning. Like if somebody said, Dom, what were the last 30 videos you watched? I wouldn't be able to tell you. And I felt like that's what the pod was doing, because I was just kind of churning things out, kind of like, oh, this is funny, but is somebody genuinely going to enjoy this, or is it just kind of like something that's just in the air? So I took a break because I was like, you know what, maybe my content is like filler for some people in that weird way. I was like, I don't want it to be just like something you walk by in a supermarket. I understand I'm not everyone's favorite flavor or everyone's favorite, podcast or whatever. I'm not asking for everyone to be astonished by everything I've done or every post I do, but I just feel like even when I would look through it, it was just, I don't know. And I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be back. I think the once a week was getting to me a little bit because I was just like, all right, I'm in this content machine, it felt like. And I really started to appreciate when I would do art, whether I be drawing it or drawing on the iPad or carving, the non-pressure of it, where I could sit there and carve or draw or do something, and I didn't have a constant feedback or a need for validation, because I'm not gonna sit here and be dishonest and say I don't look at the comments or likes. That's another thing people say, oh, I don't ever look at the likes. It's like, yeah, right, people do somewhat. And the good and the bad positive, so I really started to kind of dive into that, because when I would get done with a panel or a carving or a drawing, I could be like, look at this. And I really appreciated that. So yeah, man, I think I learned a lot of it. I learned a lot about myself in that time. And I think that's important for everybody. I think there's a lot of things that we could learn from doing things that are kind of out of the ordinary. And I really appreciated the meaning behind it. Because I'll be honest, I've prided myself in this pod of being kind of a guy who just says whatever and kind of just starts a sentence and could run 15 different ways with it. And that's a good thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But at the end of the day, it's like, I think I appreciated it when I put that intention to finish an art piece and there's something that comes out of it after like deliberately doing it the ways that they were meant to be done or the ways they used to be done. I thought that was more rewarding than me doing something and it kind of hitting. Because now, you know what, like when I look at, and I'm not Mr. Art. I don't want you guys to get that feeling that I'm like Mr. Art now. I am the farthest from that. I'm just learning the ways of what our people did back then. And I really admire that. And I admire that I even have the luxury to even dial back into that. Because there's a lot of people who are talented carvers and talented artists that don't get to have the luxury of tapping back into what their ancestors did and being able to even replicate it properly. But I just feel like I was really enjoying that. And I still am. And I think that's where my mind's at now. And that's the very long version of me saying, like, what have you been up to lately since we haven't heard the pod? Long story short is, I haven't been, determined and dedicated to this as much as I'd like to. And I took some time away to learn the art ways of the Northwest Coast. I think that's more rewarding to me. Because I think there's something like when I see a piece now and I see that people were applying those rules and design elements, satisfies that itch of creativity more than me just getting on here and saying something that's just kind of funny. And I'd rather somebody look at the art and be like, wow, that's really cool, and the time he spent on that. I mean, some people would say that they do that with the pod. It's like, wow, look at the editing, look at this and that. And it's like, whatever. But I think there's something special about going back and appreciating that. Just kind of being where you're from. I think that's another thing, too. I take a lot of pride in where I'm from, and almost to a fault. I love Seattle so much to the point where I'm defending it against top 10 cities. And I'm aware it's not. But I'm going to act like it is to, most people. Somebody's going to say New York, LA. I hear people on the street saying New York or LA. I'm going to probably butt in and say Seattle. And that's just the truth. And I think that's just comes with where I'm from and where people, stand by where they're from. I think there's another point of being delusional, but I also think there's a point of being true to your home. And that's me, man. There's a lot of new things going on because, when I was a kid, I remember, people were bringing in sack lunches. It was like brown bag and maybe some Ziplocs to hold your stuff in. And, the kids with a little bit more money had the one with the zipper on it. And I'll be honest, sometimes I'd look to my left, look to my right, and I'd see people with Crown Royal bags. And at the time, marbles were kind of a thing. So people weren't carrying their lunches with Crown Royal bags. They were carrying their marbles with the Crown Royal bag. And for the longest time, I'll be honest with people, I thought Crown Royal bags were just like a brand that carries marbles. I thought that for the longest time. The little velvet bag, these kids would pull out their marbles and we'd duke it out like it was some Squid Game thing. And that was just the bag. I thought that's what it was. I remember going to Walmart and being like, where are the Crown Royal bags? And I think I remember somebody being like, that is not what marbles are for. And for the longest time, I swear to creator, swear to whoever, that Crown Royal bags were marble holder bags. And that was not the truth. So that's just saying, times are different. And nowadays, if you show up with a Crown Royal bag at school, even if it's carrying your marbles or maybe your EpiPen or even your emergency diabetes snack, you're getting that Crown Royal bag and you're probably getting a call home. So they're confiscating it. I mean, confiscating. I totally messed that word up. It's compensating, obviously, but no, I think it's confiscate. Confiscate. I don't remember, but that's what I kind of remember in my head. Like everybody has those words that we know what they kind of mean, and you just say them, and like you just hope nobody calls you out on it. Yeah, that's probably the word I have. Compensate. Well, compensate's like giving somebody something and you want compensation. Confiscate, I don't know. Someone's probably smart enough to probably correct me on that. Just like I don't know. There's a lot of things that are happening in the world. Recently I went into a gas station. I'm a big fan of gas stations. I go to gas stations all the time. And they have the general layout. The fridges are usually in the back, and the candies are somewhere in the front. The beef jerky's in like the most inconvenient spot in the store. And you have like this weird, like you have to like hurry up and grab the jerky out of the little drawer because it's right next to the checkout, and it's next to all the gum. And it's like, I never appreciated that. I like it when the jerky's kind of a little bit farther back and you kind of take your time. Because I'll be honest, that's usually what I get at gas stations. And I don't know. I think that could be changed. But you know what I also think that should be changed in gas stations is the animosity that you get when you walk in. And I don't know if this is just the vibe I bring, because this definitely could be the gas stations I go to. But I feel like at most small gas station chains, when you don't know the layout, like 7-Eleven has generally the same layout, or like a Shell or Chevron, all have a similar layout. But I'll go into someone's on random reses, some random gas stations, and I feel like they expect me to know the layout. And if I take one little wrong turn in the gas station, I feel like I'm getting looked at. We got to change the culture, gas stations, because there's times I'll go in and I'll take a left. Some days I'll take a right. Some days I'll go days where I just take rights all day. And that's just, I feel like you're judging me. And I'm just here to get some beef jerky. And it's not my fault you put it in the worst convenient spot ever. I thought this was a convenience store, and now I'm coming in here getting judged. I take one wrong left, and all of a sudden you're looking at me as if I'm stealing something. I'm not going to steal your Carmax or your old oil that's in this random aisle next to the chips. I'm just trying to move around the store freely. You can't move around the stores freely in gas stations. I feel like you have to be like locked in, and you got to know the layout. I appreciate when you can go to stores and you're not. And some people will say, Dom, it's probably because you're walking in and you're acting like you own the place, or you're a native. You might get that. It's like, nah, maybe. I mean, I get some passing, sometimes. I'm not going to make this a whole race thing, because then that's going to go, geez, then we'll start unloading that trauma. There's some trauma that don't need to be unloaded. I'll be honest here. And I'm a big culprit of it. There's sometimes I'll be like, hey, telling someone this story, and they're like, dang, that's really sad. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, I guess you're kind of right. My bad. As I've gotten older, as I'm 27 now, someone will start telling me their trauma. They get, depends on who you are. If we're cool, you get a little bit more time. Like if you're my best friend, you're my partner, you're my family, I'll give you the time and day. But if I don't know you, I'm sorry, dude. I don't want to hear about the divorce that your mom and dad got into. And that's me being real. I save some of that time for me and for whatever. I don't got time for that no more. Not in a disrespectful way, but that's just how it goes. I mean, when I was a kid too, I would just say random stuff. I said things that were offensive and people probably didn't want to hear it. I remember one time too, I was in the back seat of a car listening to Howard Stern. I remember this vividly. It was in the back of my brother's dad's Tahoe, and Howard Stern was on, and he was calling people pussy. And for the longest time, I'm in middle school, I was in elementary school. I remember people saying sissy all the time, like, oh, you're just being sissy. Like, oh, you're a sissy cat. I remember hearing that. I don't know if you guys heard that, but I remember like, I don't want to play tackle football today because I just don't want to. People would be like, all right, you're a sissy. And I'd be like, well, I guess I'm playing. That's just what would happen. You didn't want to be a sissy. So I'm listening to Howard Stern. They're saying this, and I'm like, oh, that's just like another version of sissy. So I'm going to use that. I started calling people that, and kids on the playground laugh, but I start saying it around, like, I remember saying it to, like, just I don't know. I said it to the wrong person. They're like, you know what you're saying? I'm like, yeah, like pussy, like pussycat, whatever. They're like, no, that's not what that means. And I'm like, well, then what does it mean? And then I remember, like, as a fourth grader, like, someone telling me, I was like, whoa, that's a bad thing? Like, you don't want to be called that? And then I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. And then it, like, actually became, like, a derogatory term. Then I'm like, yeah, I'm not using that in that term. I don't know. I don't know if that's I thought it was going to be a lot funnier when I brought it up on here, but it's not. Yeah, basically, that was me back then saying it as if it was sissy, and that was that's the truth, man. What else? Oh yeah, this is another thing I've been noticing. There's been, like, now people get on the news, and I remember back then too. News used to be, getting on the news was a big deal. People would be like, oh my God, turn on the news. He's on the news. Yo, Dom just saved somebody from getting hit by a bus, and there's a story about it on the news. Turn on the news. And people would just turn on the news, and it would be there. Somebody sees online threats, and they get on the news. You could turn it on, and you could see that story. Nowadays, if somebody asks me to go watch their story on the news, I'm sorry, that's a pretty big inconvenience. Like, I don't got cable no more. I'm not gonna watch Como 7 or whatever it is live on the browser. And every time somebody's on the news and they tell me to look, I go to the news channel, and basically I'm sitting there for 2 hours waiting for the story to be released, and they, like, tease it the whole time. They don't even show the story. So I mean, I've done it. I'm guilty. I remember I worked at a radio station just not too long ago. And I remember, like, yo, I'm on the news. And I remember people being like, yo, we're waiting for your story. I was watching too, waiting for it to be seen. And it didn't show up for like an hour and a half. And I was just like, dang, I'm like low key inconveniencing people to watch my story on the news. And I remember, being on the news was big time back then. Now it's kind of like, I don't know. It's not a big deal anymore. Maybe I just got to grow up. Yeah, that's something. About closing up here, closing time. I guess I gotta say, I'm very appreciative for the people who have been asking where DJP has been, and I could give you guys a long story and say, it was this and this and this, but you know what? To be honest with you, it was just since October to now, there's a lot going on in the world, and I learned some new things, and I've been commentating a little bit, sport teams here in Tulalip, and I think time just got away, a little bit, and but thank you guys for standing by and waiting. I think that's really nice of you guys, and we're here, and that's the thing. I don't know if I could keep promising that every episode's going to be perfect every week or going to be here on time, but yeah, I really do appreciate you guys standing by, or even not even caring, but I'm back, and I'm excited to be here. It's been about 3 months, and I'm back. It's been a good 3 months, good little break, but business is business, and pod is the pod. Got to come back and possibly maybe run for board. That guy who just really, yeah, I think I'm going to run for board. Well, you don't think I should? Well, why not? Nobody knows about those DUIs. No. It was one time 7 years ago. I'm still paying grandma's van off. It wasn't my fault she didn't pay for the insurance. Nobody's going to even... Maybe I'll run next term. Jeez. Every time I bring something up, you never want to support me. Everybody makes these Facebook posts about how they're going to run. I see you commenting saying, oh, that's a good idea, but I bring it up here at dinner and you want to make a big issue about it too. Yeah, and you didn't even grab my diet Pepsi. I told you I was going on a diet too. I don't know. A little support would be nice. Running for board. That's a big thing. Not everyone just runs. It takes a strong person to run this tribe. And a DUI shouldn't stop me from it. People been up there doing worse. Yeah. Your uncle? Yeah, he had one too. I was actually in the car. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He got a DUI. We were down near the border. I don't think he can go to Canada no more. Yep. But he got voted on. So why can't I? Nobody. Every time I want to bring it up, and everyone wants to always bring up that DUI and how I wrecked Grandma's car. I still give her a ride to all her appointments. Every time she asks, I give her a ride. Yeah, you know, she'll give me gas money sometimes, and I accept it. I don't even feel guilty because she knows it goes to the gas tank. You ask some other people from the family, you don't know if it's going to the gas tank. Going to those machines. Making the other tribes around here rich, too. Doesn't even go to our own casino. My kids probably even give her grandma a ride, too. Yeah, we all give her rides. I don't see none of their kids giving her a ride. Nope. Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, I always gave grandma rides. Yeah. So I'm giving back, too. And I think I could make a run for it. I don't know, guys, but it's glad to be back. I like running that fictional character or whoever it is. A lot of people say, Dom, you're making fun of them, aren't you? No, I'm not making fun of nobody. Maybe I am. Anyways, well, this has been episode, I think, 173. We're getting close to 180. And maybe 180 we'll do something special. You know, like, you know when you do 180, you turn around. Maybe we'll switch it up a bit. I don't know what we're going to do. But anyways, thank you guys so much for being here. And thanks for being patient, you know, and I think that's important. Thanks for being patient with me here on the pod. And I'm aware it's been a while that I haven't posted anything. But, yeah, man, 2025 and the end of 2024, they have their ways. You know, I'm pretty sure people were kind of fluctuating. There's a lot going on. And that's the truth with DJP, man. And we'll be around. So I ain't going to say goodbye, but I'll say see you later. And I'll see you guys soon. Hoi.